So there was a time I went to a certain hospital. I had gone to see an aunt of mine that had just had a baby who got a few complications. So I didn't tell my mom and my aunt. I only told my dad. I was like, this is going to be our little surprise, so do not tell them. So he was supposed to be the person on the other end to receive me into that hospital. So anyway, I get to the hospital gate and they had changed the rules, and now you had to have a national ID for you to get through the gate. So my dad comes and if him is like, it's obvious. He gives them his ID. Then he's like, because I didn't have mine, he gives them his ID, and then they're like, no, this is an adult, so we want her own ID. And he was like, but she's my daughter. So anyway, we had a lot of back and forth. I was at the gate for over an hour. They still didn't let me in, but then we found a way to go through the corner. However, when my dad was walking away from the man, he told him, by the way, my daughter is a doctor. She will come here and you will see. Meanwhile, the guy was like, if she's a doctor, let her give us her hospital ID. Did I have one? No, because I was a medical student and not even in that hospital. Anyway, now I work in that hospital. I would move through that same gate, and then the guards would open for me, like for me to get in, because I am obviously a doctor and I'm wearing the coat. And now they would obviously open for me, and then the poor who are outside on the other side, the caretakers, they would like be locked out for whatever reason. And for some reason, it just keeps reminding me of that moment of when I was the one who was a caretaker being locked out, and now I'm the doctor coming in, and my father was telling the guard, she's a doctor and she will come into the hospital and you will see. So yeah, that's my dad. And then I remembered a certain time when I didn't do well in exams. I would fear exams so much, so I didn't do well, and then he would always tell me, he's like, no, these results do not in any way show your level of intelligence. You're very intelligent and I'm very proud of you, and you're going to do much better next time. As if that's not enough, the way most mothers tend to center marriage for their daughters, my mom was the kind of person who never ever centered marriage for us. There would be times when I remember when we were growing up, there'd be some things, of course, you know, those things of saying, is that how you're going to be sleeping in your husband's house? Is that how you're going to be washing dishes in your husband's house? Now I'd be like, yes, that's how I'm going to be doing it. But then I remember the time when I got engaged the first time. I told my partner, I was like, now my husband, but then he was my boyfriend, and I had told him, I was like, by the way, I do not want a public proposal. I literally do not want it. So our engagement was very private. So I sent my mom a picture of the ring, and the first thing she asked me, she was like, what's that? After that I told her, and then she was like, the first thing she asked me was, are you happy? And I told her, yes, I am. And then she said, if you're happy, then I'm happy. You know, little things like that. And one of the things they always talked about when it came to marriage, my parents never ever like made marriage the center of my life. When I would say that I am going to study, I am going ahead, this is what I'm doing, they would always be like, keep going, and we are with you and we support you. And even when they would not really have much financially or whatever, they would give everything that they had to make sure that I became the best version of myself, and so for my siblings. I remember when my mom, I used to think it was so obvious, and yet every time we would talk about things about marriage and people undergoing through abuse, and she would always say, by the let me tell you, what umuntu arakujoga ibintu kusha umuntu arakutera umuntu kuza kumanyira mu bushwere bwawe, please by all means leave. You're not supposed to die in a situation because it's a marriage. No way. Thank God I have a wonderful husband, but like for me, I thank God that in the selection of my partner during my dating life, I never ever felt any form of pressure to settle for anything and anyone just because my family gives the pressure. Like, no way. My parents always clapped for me, always. When I got onto social media and I was teaching, they were the biggest supporters. My mom is always on my TikTok forwarding videos. My dad as well, they would be like, oh, that's your daughter. And then he's like, yes, that's my child. You know, thinking about these things makes me teary, especially because I realize that not so many people have the same privilege. But most importantly, especially not so many girls. Like, now I have the privilege of being able to start from a place of a good baseline because I had wonderful parents, but also I now get to teach. We now have Galentines that I be able to vision bear and be able to encourage women from a place of a healthy place, because there's so many women who have also ended up becoming very bitter, like really bitter, because they have been very badly hurt. So it's easy for me to recognize trauma, for me to recognize toxicity, for me to recognize where I'm wrong. We get to sit down and have conversation, be like, by the mommy, this is not right, daddy, this is not right. And this is something whereby they sit and rectify. Yes, my African parents. So on my wedding, it was literally a celebration of love with the people that I love. And there was no form of me feeling regret or anything, because I had gotten a wonderful partner supported by a wonderful family. I felt deeply, deeply privileged. So yeah, I get to love because I have been loved. And in as much as they were not perfect parents and had error, if I'm to talk about them, probably this video wouldn't end. But I had a really great start, a really great baseline. Even when other things were not all the way sufficient, the most important things were. My parents never ever made me feel like because I am a girl or because I'm a female, I am any less of anyone. They never ever, there was nothing like that. My father talking about one heir, he would always be like, by the way, if the boy is a goat, my daughter will be my heir. Like, can you imagine? So for me, like, that was, it's something I can't relate to. And yet so many people do not have the same privilege. Like, can you imagine? So that's me. Thank you, my parents.